What's happening? I'm Tim and this is The Real Outdoors. And today we are going to talk about tents. Coming up this summer, I'm making my second trip to the Philmont Scout Reservation in Cimarron, New Mexico. This year, I'm taking my daughter and my wife. So I need some additional equipment that I didn't have last year. My son and I are pretty well outfitted. We've been doing scouts for a long time. This is actually our 11th year scouting and camping with the scouts. So we had our equipment pretty squared away. But now with my wife and daughter coming, I needed some additional equipment to outfit them. And it turns out I'm actually going to outfit myself with some new equipment and then take some of my old equipment and give it to my wife and daughter for them to use on the Philmont trip. This is where tents come in. My daughter will be using the Philmont MSR tents that they will provide to you because that's what we did with the scouts last year and it worked out really well. But my wife and I, we each need our own tent. Last year, I used my Tarp Tent ProTrail and it worked great. I love the weight. I'll put a link up in the eye in the sky to my review of that tent. It was fantastic and it's definitely going back to Philmont this year. The question is whether or not I'm going to be using the ProTrail or my wife will be using the ProTrail. That brought up some questions. What tent am I going to get for either my wife or I to use? Now, the Tarp tent is a single wall and it worked fine. Had a few condensation issues, but really nothing major that made it unusable or me not want to bring it back to Philmont. So we're definitely bringing the ProTrail. There's no question about that. It's a perfect weight. It's a perfect tent. Works great. I wasn't sure I wanted to get another Tarp tent. I like to try out different outdoor stuff. So I was thinking about maybe trying a different tent. I first started looking at DCF tents. That's Dyneema composite fabric, or a lot of you know it as Cuban fiber. And I'd really narrowed it down to the Z-Packs duplex. I kind of wanted a little more space than I had in the ProTrail last year, so I was looking at two-man tents. That brought me to the Z-Packs duplex. The duplex is very lightweight. It's another single wall tent. It's another trekking pole tent, so it doesn't have poles. I kind of wanted to steer away from poles. The issue is the Z-Packs is very expensive, like any DCF tent is. I had convinced myself that I was okay spending the money. The issue is I'm a hammock camper, and I'm really only going to use the tent for the Philmont Trail. Maybe someday down the road, when I do more of the Appalachian Trail, I might use a tent, but I might use the hammock too. I'm really not sure. So I'm not sure how much I'd use it, and that kind of had me hesitant to spend the $600 on the Z-Packs duplex. I also did some more research and found that while the DCF is tough fabric, it doesn't really stand up to punctures and abrasions very well. So that had me hesitant to spend $600 on a tent that I'm really at this point only going to use for Philmont for 12 days. Especially since Philmont has a lot of rocks, a lot of gravel, a lot of opportunities to abrade and poke that Z-Packs tent. So that got me starting to look at Silnylon tents, which is what the Tarp tent is made out of. Worked great, didn't have any issues with wear and tear while I was in Philmont last year. So that brought me to the Nemo Hornet. And the Nemo Hornet is right at 2 pounds, 2-person tent. It's double wall, so I don't have to worry about condensation issues. One of the other dads last year used the Nemo Hornet and it worked great for him. I thought it was a great looking tent. It had a lot of space while still being pretty lightweight. But again, that tent right now is about $400. That's still a lot of money for a tent for 12 days. Then I saw a video from Dixie over at Homemade Wanderlust, and I'll put a link to her channel down below so you can check her out. She makes great videos about backpacking and hiking. I usually go to her and a couple others to get some ideas and reviews on products I'm thinking about getting. She did a comparison of the Z-Packs, and she actually did the 1-person Z-Packs tent, but it's almost identical to the duplex. It's just a little bit smaller. Well, she had this tent from 3F UL called the Lanshan. So that's how I found out about the 3F UL Lanshan. And you'll see it under different names. It's kind of a product that anyone can put their name on. You'll see it under Meyer, Fire Creek is another one, or even the 3F UL brand itself. It is available on Amazon under the Fire Creek brand and the Meyer brand. I really started looking at that. So I watched some comparison videos. I watched Dixie's video comparing the Z-Pack's tent to the Lanshan, and I really got interested in this tent. It's not a single wall, it's actually a double wall tent, but it looks exactly, the two-person version looks exactly like the Z-Pack's duplex, except that it's made out of Silnylon and it's a double wall. Obviously this is going to make it a little bit heavier, and what I found is that it is a little bit on the heavy side. It's 2.8 pounds according to my scale. That's how I got to the 3F UL Lanshan and decided that's the tent I'm going to buy. I picked it up on Amazon. I wanted it from Amazon so I could get prime shipping and so that I could get free returns on it. And at Amazon, it was about $130 when I purchased it. I think you could get it on AliExpress for about $110 range, $120, somewhere in that range. So for the extra money, I was happy to get it from Amazon with the free shipping and the free returns in case I didn't really like it. So the tent came in just a couple days ago. Let's go inside and do a little unboxing of the tent. We are going to do a quick unboxing of this 3F UL tent. You can see this one is branded with the Meyer brand. There's lots of different brands out there. I got the Meyer from Amazon. And so let's just open this up and take a look at what's inside. All right, so it has a little QR code, says scan to see the video. I'll scan that later. I assume that gives me instructions of how to set up this tent. See, it's wrapped in plastic. Pull that out of there. So it's inside its stuff sack. You can see the Lanshan 2 and the Meyer logo on the tent, all in its stuff sack. Honestly, for an ultralight tent, it feels a little on the bulky side and heavy side. I know it is double walled instead of single walled, so I'm sure that's part of it. Open up the plastic. Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. I'm used to my tarp tent that's obviously a lot lighter than this. But let's put it on the scale and see what it comes out at. Just make sure we're at 0. Slip that under there. We're coming out at 2.8 pounds. So turn that around so you can see. 2.8 pounds. That's just the tent itself. It obviously doesn't include the trekking poles that I have to use to put this up. I wanted to compare this to my tarp tent just to get an idea. You can see it's about the same as far as size and bulkiness. I mean, my tarp tent will compress down, and so will the 3F UL won't compress much more than this, but my tarp tent, you can see it'll compress down a little bit. They're still very similar in size and bulk, but I just wanted to compare the weights too. Now I know the tarp tent is a single wall tent, the 3F UL is a double wall, this is a single person tent, this is a 2-person tent theoretically. But these are my ultralight tents. So I wanted to compare ultralight to ultralight and at least get an idea. So that 3F UL was 2.8 pounds. Let's see what we get with tarp tent. It's 1.8, 1.7, 1.9. Let's call it 1.8. That's where it seems to settle at. So that's a full pound less than the 3F UL, tent to tent. So that's actually, this has stakes in it. So even with stakes, this has stakes in it. So that stakes to stakes, no trekking poles on either one, no tent poles. I don't have my custom tent poles in the tarp tent. So it's just tent to tent with stakes.
about a pound difference. So that's a fair bit of extra weight, but let's go set up the 3F UL and see what we get as far as extra space.
All right, we are gonna give a try at setting up the Lanshan 2. I also have my top quilt, my sleeping pad, so I can see, what it's gonna be like for space once I actually have all of my equipment in there. I've watched a few videos on YouTube on how to set this up. I am familiar with trekking pole tents and how they work, so I don't think it'll be too difficult, but let's give it a shot and see how it works out. So I just want to show you, it's got this compression sack that it comes with, just 2 little clips, roll top, so just unroll that, and we'll see what we have inside. So it actually has a flap here with instructions that are in English of how to set the tent up. So, shouldn't be bad. It says the inner tent should already be connected with the Rainfly before delivery. Unfold, stake out the 4 corners, and then do 1 trekking pole at a time and then tighten everything up, which is basically what I've seen in the videos. So let's see what we have inside. So that's it, it's all rolled into one thing. Got a little tie here around the tent. Take that off. See what we have here. This little stake bag. All right, so it looks like we've got a patch kit, some extra guy lines. Not sure what those are for, but we'll figure that out. More guy lines, and 9 aluminum tent stakes. You can see they're kind of like the MSR Groundhog, but smaller. They're not as big. They're definitely very light. And then of course we have the tent, so let's get to setting that up.
While we're doing this, I just want to give you a close-up. You've got this one loop here that's on the fly part, the green part, and then you've got another elastic loop that's part of that holds your inner tent, the floor, in place. And you put this in after you get everything set up and just make adjustments from there. But we'll start by staking out the Rainfly corners. You can see it's got a little adjuster there to help you out with that. All right, 4 corners done. Time for the trekking poles. One thing I wanted to point out on these corners is it's adjustable, but only if you put the tent stake through the orange marked loop. So you've got to be careful, where you put that loop, because there's a loop on this side too that's marked in white, but if you do that, you won't be able to adjust it and pull on these things. And then up here, you have your pocket for your trekking pole. It's actually inside here. And you don't want to go, obviously, inside the inner tent. You go inside the outer tent for that. There's like a little loop here and a reinforced section for the top of your handle on your trekking pole. Side done.
All right, I've got the 4 corners out, the 2 trekking poles in. Now I'm gonna make some adjustments to the trekking poles and put out the rest of the guidelines and things. We'll start with these ridge ones. It'll help stabilize it.
I want to show you how this ridge line works. It's got this special little hook for your vestibule, and you kind of have to start with that and then make your adjustments from there. So let's take a look at how that works. So the first thing you have to do, you can see here, you take one hook on each side of the vestibule. You can see where I've weaved the loop on the vestibule through the little hook, one on each side there. Then you pull that out and it's got a pre-made loop in there. And you're gonna see one side is very loose and one side is taut. And then we stake that in. So once you've got that one side staked in, you can see this other side is loose. You come up here and there's a line lock type device. You just pull on that until it's nice and taut and it'll hold that in place. And then your tent's fairly set up. We do have to come by and put our guy lines here on the sides. I need to make some adjustments on the corners to kind of square it up. And then of course put those 4 hooks in down here. So we'll do that next. You can see this cord underneath coming out to the tent stake. Like I said, I can add guy lines there to give me a little more space. So let's do that next. That's what these extra guy lines are for. Have those extra guy lines out, pulling out the walls. Let's go ahead, get in the tent, take a look at what we have. So, my vestibule came unhooked here. So I'm gonna unhook one side of the vestibule, Oh, I unhooked the wrong side. And it's a Velcro and a zipper. Zipper moves really easily. I like the Velcro. Just roll this side up. You've got your toggle here. Basic tent toggle, just like most of them. So that holds that in. You can see the bathtub floor. Looks pretty good. I could probably stand and move my pole out a little bit, give me a little more floor space, a little more room to get in. Let's go in and take a look. And this has a retainer too for your screen. Just loop that around. There you go, fully open, ready to get in. So the floor feels very similar to my tarp tent. Probably could get away without a ground sheet. Probably needs a little seam sealer stripes put in just to keep your sleeping pad from moving around. Let's get in and see what kind of space we have. So I'm almost 6 feet tall, and you can see I've got a little bit of space before I hit the ceiling. Got little pockets here on both ends. There's definitely a lot of space, but it doesn't feel like it's that much bigger than my tarp tent, even though it's a 2-person versus a 1-person. Still feels about the same, so I'm glad I went with the 2-person instead of the 1-person. You can see in here where the double wall connects, or the Rainfly connects to the inner tent. And then up here you've got hooks along the ridge line, so you can put in a line so you can hang a light or clothes, dry your clothes out inside your tent or whatever. I can tell just being in here that I can tighten up the setup a little bit, but it's good for right now, just trying it out. You can see the wind is blowing the Rainfly a little bit, so I probably need to tighten that up a hair. Good bathtub floor. Solid height on that. I think that's actually better than the tarp tent. It's a good tent. I like it. You can see it's taped. I do need to seam seal those on the Rainfly. My understanding is those allow some water through, so I would need to seam seal that. Everything else seems to be good. Let's get the sleeping pad and quilt in here, see what it's like with that. All right, I got my sleeping pad in here with my quilt. It definitely looks like my quilt is going to be a little close to touching, but let's see how that works out. I will say one thing, it is super easy getting in and out of this tent. Way easier than the tarp tent. Now that's a front entry, this is a side entry, so a little bit different, but definitely much easier in here. So yeah, as you can see, if I lay straight, my quilt is touching the tent, which I really don't want to be doing. See, if I scoot down a little bit, get it away from there, and then you can see my head is touching. So let's make a few little adjustments here. All right, so now I'm good on the head side. Good on the foot side. Still lots of room for gear. Get that stick out of here. And it's definitely a very open, airy, lots of room. It's sitting straight up. I still got plenty of room. I really like this tent. I'm not sure I like the extra pound of weight, but I like this tent. This is a good tent. I don't know if you could get 2 people in here. I think it'd be pretty tight. At least 2 grown people like me. I'm gonna roll over because I usually lay on my stomach. Plenty of room to lay on your stomach. In fact, when I'm laying on my stomach, this tent feels even bigger. There's so much room to put stuff. It's a little warm in Florida for a quilt. Yeah, I like this. You can see how I opened one flap. I could open both, get more of a breeze going through here. It's got 2 doors. They are on opposite ends. I think that's set up so that you can sleep head to toe. I think that's the only way you're gonna get 2 people in here. Just wanna give you a look at the vestibule. This vestibule is huge. There's plenty of room out there for me to put my pack on one side, shoes on the other, still be protected from the elements. And I'm reaching as far as I can from the edge of the tent. And I have to kind of lean out to get to that zipper. So you can see it's a big vestibule. Lots of space. I'm gonna open up this other side and see how the breeze feels. You can feel a good solid breeze coming through when you've got just half a vestibule open on each side. I've kind of got them opposite, so there's a good crosswind coming in. I'm telling you, I like this tent. I haven't seen anything that turns me off to it. The zippers work really well, better than most tents I've had. The material feels great. Plenty of room, definitely not lacking in room. I'm really curious if I can get away with the Lanshan 1. Tempted to get that one and try it out. At least then I'd get my weight down a little more. Yeah, I think that might be what I'll do. I'm just not sure I need all this space for a 2-man. I like it. Thumbs up from the Real Outdoors. I almost forgot, I do want to go through taking this tent down with you guys. I'm used to just stuffing my tent in the stuff sack and rolling, but my understanding is you can't really do that with this tent. I'm gonna try and stuff it in its stuff sack and see how that works out. If not, I'll go back to rolling it like they suggest. Yep, it'll definitely work stuffing, but I think it's gonna be easier to set up if you roll it.
I actually think it's a little bit easier just to stuff it in there. Really wasn't that hard to lay back out and fold and roll. Plus, I've always been taught it's better for the tent to just stuff it rather than roll it and create seams and creases. I think I had a harder time rolling it. I'll just stick with the tried and true stuffing. So that's it for the Lanshan 2. Like I say, I think I'm gonna try out the Lanshan 1. I love the tent, it's great. I just think it's more space than I need. And that means more weight than I need to carry. So I think we'll give the Lanshan 1 a try, see how much space that has. Go from there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to click that red subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you like this Lanshan 2 video. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Let's get this cleaned up.